The pro teams in Wisconsin, the Bucks, Brewers, and Packers, have lost the last 6 times they've reached the semifinal round of their respective playoffs. Now, instead of competing for gym space with other sports, Mosinee softball has its own, including 2 pitching lanes and even 3 batting cages. Oh heavens, would you look at the time. It is highlights o'clock. Tomahawk's old field was made of grass and it was getting pretty worn down, but now they're planning to play on brand new turf. I am sitting on the very podium that the Medford Raiders hope to themselves climb in just a couple of hours. Mosinee fell just a match shy of the state tournament last season. They get started on the right foot against Tomahawk. Lakeland is in the middle of a spate of 3 straight road games. They drop one 62-53 against Medford. On the surface, Mattoon looks like a lot of small, picturesque northern Wisconsin villages. But something special happens on this field behind me that keeps a group of childhood friends coming back every week. To slightly misquote Guns N' Roses, welcome to the bubble. We've got fun and games. If this dollar in coins represents the Packers' player budget, then Matthews and Cobb combine to make up about 13 cents of it. Now that their contracts are expired, they basically have 2 choices. They can seek a new team or a new deal in free agency, or they can come back to the Packers, albeit probably for less money. This right here is Karlie Volk, the only Blue Jay runner to qualify for the state meet. Now, Karlie credits, among other people, her sister Courtney for helping her even get there. More news for you after the break, but in the meantime, in rowdy Rhinelander, Andrew Goldstein, Newswatch 12.
I remember my mom took me to like this one swim meet. We saw this diver and we were both like, oh my gosh, this is something like you could do.
Ever since that day in 7th grade, Karlie Woodall has spent a lot of time both up there and down there.
Very athletic, very powerful, very coachable, willing to learn, and very, very self-motivated.
Karlie has to be, considering the pool she comes to for practice in Mosinee is almost an hour from her home in Tomahawk.
So I always come here down like 3 times a week maybe, and then I was also like traveling to Ladysmith on Monday nights too, which is a long drive.
There are no pools with diving boards in Tomahawk. So Hatchet swimming coach Teresa L'Esperance had to figure out something else.
We have looked everywhere to find a board. We've gone everywhere. And we've done everything we can for her.
You got to drive long distances and make some sacrifices to pursue this sport in the Northwoods.
Karlie is certainly no stranger to sacrifice. After knee injuries turned her life upside down.
It actually started in like 7th grade when I first tore my ACL. And then over time, like 2 years, it just kind of started to hurt more. So we went to the doctors. And they told me that I ended up actually tearing my meniscus too. So I ended up losing 20% of my meniscus and had to get my ACL replaced for a second time.
That second ACL tear kept her from competing for a whole year. When she got back in the pool, she could hardly even kick.
She was in the pool and she was pulling. She pulled for a whole season, never used her legs.
None of that stopped her from getting back on the board for her junior year.
You know, if we have a little twinge in the knee, she still continues to work. And I don't think she's ever skipped a practice.
Every rehab session, every car ride, every dive led her to Madison, where she placed in the top 10 at last fall's D2 state dive meet.
A lot of divers would have just kind of given up, I think, given the hindrances that we've had.
Just being able to do the sport and something I love, I'm just very grateful for.
And when the road to get here has already been so long, what's another 90 minutes in a car?
I feel like a lot of times we take stuff for granted. I pretty much just remind myself to do the things that I can while I still am able to.
In Mosinee, Andrew Goldstein, Newswatch 12.
That's still a little bit surreal.
When John Depke decided to pick up an axe, he never thought it would go this far.
Came here to check it out, try it out. Loved it from the first throw and just kind of ran with it from there.
Depke is an Axe Master at Blades and Boards in Wausau. He threw well enough this season to qualify for the World Axe Throwing Championships in Arizona. where he could bring a title home to Wisconsin.
I think it'd be a tremendous boost for this community, for myself.
It might also be a boost for axe throwing in the Northwoods. Not that the sport necessarily needs it.
It is growing rapidly every year. It's really taken off in the last 5 years. It's really gained footing.
And you don't have to be a world champion to give it a go.
Almost anybody can do this. We've had anyone from 80, 90-year-olds. I've had a 5-year-old in here that tried it with their parents.
Even people more in the middle of that range don't always look like your stereotypical athletes.
And axe throwing is a sport where you don't necessarily have to be able to run a 4.4 40-yard dash. As long as you can throw an axe and walk 12 feet to go get it, then you could potentially be a world champion.
Just one more title for the Axe Master. In Wausau, Andrew Goldstein, Newswatch 12. Coaches, administrators, broadcasters, trainers, managers, vendors, business owners, all of them got the announcement they were dreading today, that the Big Ten is canceling fall sports. The conference isn't wiping the games from the calendar entirely, at least not yet. They'll investigate the possibility of playing in the spring instead. In the meantime, athletes stay on scholarship and are allowed up to 20 hours of practice with coaches per week. Wisconsin Athletic Director Barry Alvarez said in a statement that canceling was in the medical interests of Badger athletes, but he couldn't hide his disappointment with the conference's decision.
I don't feel good about the whole thing. I just feel a hollow feeling. This has been very, very difficult for me.
Alvarez discussed the possibility of a 6 to 8 game season in the spring, but players aren't so sure. Several of them raised concerns about overtaxing their bodies. It also hasn't been determined whether seniors will get extended eligibility. Despite all the uncertainty, head coach Paul Christ is proud of how his team is handling it.
It's not that we're experiencing something that no one else is, but I think that, the way they handled the quarantine and when they came back and how they handled the summer, I thought they handled that really well.
Decisions about winter sports have not been made yet. The Pac-12, which also canceled fall sports, extended its shutdown all the way through 2020, which would impact the start of the winter season. Now, I know it doesn't feel like it, but we're now a quarter of the way through the MLB season, and apparently the Brewers bats got the message. Second game of a home series against the Minnesota Twins. First Brewers batter of the game. Crew down 2-0. Not after this. Avisail Garcia coming in 2 for his previous 18. That'll break him out of it. Solo homer. But the Crew found themselves down 4-2 in the 6th, when normally light-hitting catcher Manny Pena strode to the plate and knocked out his second homer of the day, the first multi-homer game of his career. Still tied in the 8th. Jed Jerko is going to forcibly break it with this 2-run shot. All 10 runs in this game came from home runs, and apparently he who homers last, homers loudest. Well, they can't all be winners, folks, but the Brewers sure were. They take it 6-4, rubber game coming up tomorrow. Down in Florida, Giannis got himself into a whole heap of trouble tonight. He has been ejected from the Bucks' second to last regular season game against the Wizards for this headbutt. This was called a second-degree flagrant foul that comes with a guaranteed fine and the possibility of a suspension. The Bucks currently lead Washington in the 4th quarter. Now, it seems crazy to make plans beyond next week in our world, let alone next football season, but that's exactly what the Packers have to do when it comes to one of their cornerstone players. Left tackle David Bakhtiari is entering the final year of his contract. He'll make a little more than $10 million this year, but after that is anyone's guess. Bakhtiari focused on the present in today's media availability and said he feels safe playing the season. But as you listen to this quote, see if you can spot how he talks about his contract without actually saying it.
I feel a lot safer, myself and everyone around us, with anything from our face masks, face shields, hand sanitizer everywhere, or the awareness and also the protocols and standards that we have even to enter the building.
Did you catch his t-shirt? It said, "Call my agent." And after all he's done to keep both Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers upright, the Packers may feel some incentives to do just that.